Let's continue exploring the universe within art and the art within Minecraft. I'm your host, OmLedu, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at how to farm dripstone. Now, you can automate these farms using observers and pistons, but, because dripstone grows so incredibly slowly, the rates on the automated versions are absolutely terrible in regards to the cost. Whereas you can build a super duper easy, cheap, manually harvesting section and get all the dripstone you will ever need whenever it's fully grown. And there are a couple of ways that you can get your initial dripstone, one of them being by trading with the Wandering Trader. Sometimes he will have the pointed dripstone for sale, and so this can be helpful early on if you haven't been able to find a dripstone cave. But the main way that you're probably going to find your dripstone is by stumbling upon a dripstone cave. Luckily, these are fairly common, and a lot of times you can see the dripstone from an opening in the surface. So just explore your world and you'll come across it. And once you have your initial pointed dripstone, you can place it on the bottom of a dripstone block with a water source block above that, and it will grow more. Now also, if it's close enough to the floor, it will start growing some from the floor as well, and the ones on the floor can grow off of any block. They can even grow off of glass. It will grow dripstone on the floor if the floor is within 11 blocks from the pointed dripstone on the top, and dripstone will grow up to 7 blocks from the top or the bottom. So once it reaches 7 blocks in length, it will stop growing in either direction. It will no longer drip on the floor, and it will no longer increase its own size. And because of the way this works, I recommend not building your dripstone farms any larger than 11 blocks. And for this first design, I recommend building it 8 blocks tall, and we'll explain why here in a second. So also I recommend building the floor and the walls out of something that you can't easily mine with a pick. I usually use nether wart just because it's cheap and readily available, and you need a hoe in order to harvest it. But when it comes to harvesting dripstone, it's basically insta-mine with a pick, so you can just run around and hit it with your pick, and now if you make it 8 blocks tall, you won't be able to mine the very topmost dripstone. That will keep you from having to replant it, from not accidentally hitting it. So this farm, you can just run around, you just basically make a little cave of dripstone and just mine it out as you go. Now, this isn't the most efficient because you really want to cut the dripstone in sections so that you don't have to mine every single pointed dripstone, and that's where this design that we'll be tutorialing out comes in handy. And this is the dripstone farm that I build in my own worlds. It's similar to just building a big cluster, but the advantage of this one is that you can easily mine out the bottommost dripstone and then easily mine out the topmost dripstone, so that you don't, waste any time mining out any of the in-between dripstone. So we have this top section here with a glass pane wall that prevents you from accidentally mining out the far wall, and both the top and the bottom line you up perfectly so that you can just hold down the mine button and move to the side. You will then cut the dripstone into 2 sections, which will harvest the entire thing. And this always gives me way more dripstone than I could ever use. Plus you can build this as big as you want to. So if you need more dripstone, you can always just make it bigger and you'll end up getting more dripstone. Now also, you can buy dripstone blocks from mason villagers. You can't buy the pointed dripstone, but if you're trying to build something big out of the blocks, that is always good to know. Now also, as I mentioned before, you need water source blocks on top of the dripstone blocks for the dripstone to grow, and I will also touch on automating this farm at the end of the video. But for now, let's jump into the build tutorial. So you're going to want to make this 5 blocks away from the wall, that is 5 blocks wide. A player can mine 5 blocks in any direction, so this will prevent you from accidentally mining out the far wall while ensuring that you can reach all of the dripstone. And then you can make this farm as long as you want to. You can make it tiny or super duper long. I usually make it, maybe like 10 blocks wide or something like that, and then increase the size if I need to later on if I'm trying to build something huge out of dripstone. And for this front section, we're going to dig down 1 block and then place in our slabs. Standing on the slabs will ensure that you don't accidentally mine out the bottom part of your floor, and then also make sure that you get all of the dripstone in one fell swoop without accidentally mining out a different one or the floor or any of that nonsense. This will really help save time in the long run. And now it's time to build the top section of our farm. I recommend building this like 7 to 10 blocks tall. You basically want to build it no taller than 11 blocks. That way the dripstone always has a chance to grow on the bottom without the top having to grow. So I recommend building it like 10 blocks tall is totally fine. Usually I build this somewhere between 7 and 10. I usually don't even measure it, to be honest. It just depends on where I'm building it. Sometimes I'll build it under my base, so I'll make it shorter if need be. And that's another thing to mention is that you want to build this somewhere where you are going to be all the time. Whether that's in your mine or at your base. Because dripstone grows so slowly, you're going to want this farm to be loaded, as often as you possibly can load it. But then we're going to build the top section out of dripstone blocks, and we're just going to mirror the bottom platform. So it's going to be 5 blocks deep and just as big as you made your bottom platform. And then we're going to surround it in blocks. I usually surround it in glass, but there's no real reason that I do that. You can use any blocks that you want to. This is just going to trap the water inside, because then we need to flood this entire platform so that we have water source blocks above all of the pointed dripstone blocks. And you can just, do every other block on 2 sides, and the whole platform will fill in with water source blocks, like so. And then next up, we need to place pointed dripstone on the bottom of all of the dripstone blocks. So you are going to need to pillar up here probably, but either way, just make sure that you get pointed dripstone on the bottom of every single dripstone block, like so. And, while you're doing this, some of it might even start growing. If you see dripping water particles, that is a good sign. That means that it is working. And now we just need to build this top section. So this top section is going to be 3 blocks below the dripstone blocks. That is, have a gap of 3 in between the platform and the dripstone blocks. If you build it wrong, you'll know really quickly that it's the wrong height because you won't be lined up correctly. But building it at this height will make sure that you are lined up with the next to topmost dripstone, so that again, just like the bottom, you can just run back and forth mining in a straight line and you will mine out all of the dripstone. Now I also recommend placing glass panes or fences, maybe even walls I think will work too, any of those half blocks so that you don't accidentally go too far forward and end up mining out the wall. And that's also nice to place some blocks at the end so that you don't accidentally, go too far to the right or too far to the left and end up falling off your platform. I've done both of those things, throughout building this farm. But that's it. You are now basically done. The only thing that's left is to build a way to access the second, story. So you can either place, a ladder here if you want to, or usually I will build a staircase, so you can just build some way for you to access the second story, and then you're done. Now all that's left is just to wait for the dripstone to grow, and again, it will grow very, very slowly, so again, build this somewhere where you're going to be all the time. And then once it's grown, you just run across the bottom and then run across the top and then collect all of the pointed dripstone that you mined. And this is the easiest way that I find to mine out dripstone. Again, you can technically automate this process, but it's just so slow growing that you're going to have to use like observers and pistons for every single dripstone, and then you're going to have to wait for hours just to get like a couple of dripstone. Where with building it like this, it's super duper cheap, super easy. You just build it, forget about it, and then come back to it later on, and it's all fully grown, and then you just harvest it all in like 30 seconds, and you get hundreds and hundreds of dripstone. But just in case you are really wanting to automate it, let's talk about some of the ways that you do that really quick. I won't go over any tutorials or anything like that. I will just mention how you get it done. So the first method is going to be similar to sugarcane farms, except that you want 2 pistons per dripstone, one for the bottom and one for the top, with an observer in between the 2 pistons, so that as the dripstone grows, it'll trigger the observer, and then the pistons will harvest the bottom and the top. And the second way that you could do this is like bamboo with a flying machine. Now for the dripstone, you would need a second flying machine up at the top, because again, you need to cut the dripstone from the bottom and the top in order to actually harvest it. Now you could also use a piston extender, which would fully automate the process safely. Now I have used triple piston extenders in order to make fully AFK versions of these farms, like bamboo, sugarcane, and dripstone, but I haven't actually tutorialed any of them out. But if that is something that you would like to see, or if you have any requests at all, simply let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. So just let me know if there's any specific farm that you would like me to tutorial or to explain. I would be more than happy to help. But that's all we got for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out, and it makes me super duper happy. You can also check the video description for a link to my Discord. From there, you can join that Minecraft community to share pictures of your builds, talk to me about redstone, share pictures that you have questions about, find players to play with, find worlds to play in, or really anything Minecraft related that you would like to do. Just join the Discord and talk to me there. And a big shout out to all of my subscribers and all of my supporters. It is because of y'all that my channel keeps growing and that I can continue making these videos. So thank you so much. Y'all are all totally awesome. You mean the world to me. But that's all we got for this video. So until next time, I've been your host, OmLedu, hopefully teaching you a Minecraft trick or two. And reminding you, as always, don't forget to have fun. Bye bye.